change. It's the thing we all talk about, the thing we celebrate, worry about. The city is constantly in flux all around us, cycles of birth and rebirth. How do we see ourselves in this story? Is change happening to us, or are we changing the city? My name is Tunde. I'm a chef and a writer. I was born in Lagos. I've lived in Detroit and New Orleans. I've been traveling to cities across America hosting dinners. And in each place I go, I hear folks having the same conversations about how their cities are changing. People talk excitedly about new businesses opening or vacant buildings being brought back to life. But they're also concerned about displacement and the disparities that come from uneven investment. Cities have always been full of contrast, but are they off balance? I met up with some folks in Detroit, New Orleans, and Philadelphia to hear their perspective.
America is really obsessed with the idea of private space, and to me it's so beautiful when people are living tighter together and making that choice to live like that.
I'm not an activist.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's what I've discovered by being here, because Detroit is a city of activists, which I love. You were asking this moral and this awareness. This awareness to me is about the insects, the birds, the soil, the water, the plants, and other humans. We have to work to figure out how to bring these together harmoniously.
I feel like even the word community engagement is just a giant piece of lip service, because if you're all about community, it would be embedded in every aspect of the work. You shouldn't have to have a separate piece called community engagement, right?
I think the best thing that we can do is to keep promoting a diversity of opinion and influx, and that's happening just because people are moving in.
This city does not exist without people of color. This city does not thrive without people of color. This city would not be what it is from a cultural standpoint or beyond without people of color. And so if we continue to disadvantage those communities, if we continue to ignore those communities, the entire city is going to suffer.
Let's reinvest in what we have here in this city and make sure that we aren't leaving people behind.
Well, we know that the world is urbanizing, and we know more people are moving towards urban centers. Mm-hmm. There's been this return to cities from the suburbs. A whole new generation of people moving back to cities where their parents had left the previous generation. Mm. And in some ways, that's a great success, right? That's, for me anyway, the biggest problem that America has is, and this is socially, politically, environmentally, everything, is that we've spread too far apart.
I think cities overall, as we know, are growing, right?
The science tells us that. Beyond my personal opinion and desire and like to be in cities, we know by, 2050, 75% of the world's population is going to live in cities.
So with this influx of transplants into the city, they're bringing with them, including me, our own perspectives and experiences and desires, and then inserting that into the community. So it is kind of a really interesting time, but everybody is not experiencing that same rebirth.
Can we develop and keep it black? I would like to see.
Keep it black.
Why can't we just, bring the people that are there up a little bit instead of importing all these people that have stuff? Do you know what I mean?
In Detroit, to me, I think there was a unique opportunity. Everyone has said there's just so much space here, do you know what I mean? And so if we look at the Elmore was an abandoned apartment building with 5 vacant lots around it. So what we were trying to do here is say, well, maybe we can come up with some different patterns that are sustainable with regards to nature and living and nature and working. And Detroit, I think, provided a unique opportunity to do that.
the place we're going now is understanding how to pivot from a quite large coordinated campaign to reclaim cities and to reinvest in cities and make them livable, as some would say. Yeah. Shift from that to how do we make sure that we have not just quality of place, but equality of place?
I know what you mean. Okay, here's the reality, or what has been the reality. I have to be careful around you. But it's been changed. It's been people moving in, people moving out, like sort of like constituencies swelling and then contracting.
But does it have to be that way? Let's go back to this question. You're like, this is how it has been.
No, but I'm saying, but it's important because then you talk about investment in certain groups. So for example, Detroit is black. Has Detroit always been black? Should Detroit always remain black? You know, these are like the...
It's something to think about, though. Yeah, cities' populations change, but this neighborhood should be able to... If black people can't be okay in the city, then where are we to go?
No, I'm saying that places change, you know, and what does responsible change look like? You know, how do you... I mean, you want to maintain like some sort of like strong neighborhood or community identity, but you also want to evolve. You don't want to ossify. I mean, change is just a natural part of things, but how?
Sure. I don't know. I think the most inclusive change just involves the people that are already there.
We have such a strong, rich tradition in this city, and you know, we're full of civic pride, you know, and we hold on to that. And when we have new people coming in, you know, if you're talking about people that may have, you know, more financial means, that should be welcomed, right? Because it's going to help to increase our tax base. It's going to attract other kind of investments into our city as well. Long as it's done respectfully and not on the backs of, you know, the current, you know, folks who've been here and who've kind of held this all together all this time.
There's got to be sort of like push and pull happening, and that's not necessarily about, you know, good versus evil or positive versus negative, but it's just there. And it's one of the dynamics of change. And I think that's what happens amongst various folks. It's not just kind of the natives versus the pioneers. It's also like this culture versus that culture, and this age group versus that age group. I mean, it crosses all kinds of different boundaries, and I just think that's an essential tension of the city, and I think that's a good thing. Where there's no tension, there's sort of death.
In some ways, we have to figure out this stuff because we don't really have a choice. Like, people are going to be moving towards cities, or that's the trend.
Tunde, I want to ask you questions.
Oh, this is about you. It's not about me.
Tunde, really?
Yeah, this is all about you, man.